So at a young age, I started rebelling, got into fights with my dad, stopped going to school. I was an athlete before I started rebelling. And at one point I was living in a marijuana smuggler's garage. That's how I got the taste of selling marijuana, you know what I mean? 15.
How'd you meet him?
His son. So his son was like friends with us. When I say us, I'm talking about my family. And so I got the taste of that money in rebellion, and saw garbage cans full of marijuana. And I was even snatching some out of it. I was just a kid, you know what I mean? Buying like ounce, quarter pound, pound, and just trying to come up. And I was already a runaway. And so for about a couple years, I climbed the ladder in that. And I was just past 18 years old when I got busted. Some kid on coke ran through my backyard who bought weed from me, and I was innocent, you know what I mean? I didn't even know about these other drugs, really. And so they rushed the house, and I was yelling at them, and they seized like 20 grand in cash and like 5 pounds of weed. And that was the first time I'd ever got busted, so they let me out on my own recognizance.
That was your $20,000, or was it?
Mine, yeah.
So
mine.
you were, what year, this is what, mid-80s?
This is like, yeah, like 89, 90, right around there.
So you were 18?
Yeah.
So you were making, you were a real...
Yeah, I was doing good. I was a little hustler. So I started doing time, like in and out. Like my first term was in 90, and I did 16 months.
And that was for the weed case?
Yeah, exactly. And then I did 16 months turnaround. So I got a taste of what prison was like. And I believed that they owed me money in San Bernardino. Because, you know, whenever you're dealing a lot, you always got things going on when you go do time. So that's part of the trap too. You get out and you're like, okay, where's my social life? They got money over there for me. I can't get a job. You give up right away on getting a job. And they got money they owe me. So I go back out to San Bernardino. And I kept on doing that for the 90s.
I'm interested, I don't know quite the way to put this, but like even in America's quote unquote suburbs or upscale areas, there's still this, even within the upper class, there's an underbelly.
Yeah.
So even in these areas where all the houses are expensive, there's still the households or there's trouble inside or a troubled kid. And those kids, just like in the traditional high crime area, those kids come together and do stuff.
Yeah.
But it's different because you're not in a lawless environment. You're in a very controlled suburban environment. So the way you guys got to move is kind of different. And then when you went to prison, you met people from a more traditional lawless type environment.
Yeah.
But like, how do you operate as a young outlaw in these areas where you can't stand on the corner at 3 in the morning? You can't ride around with no driver's license and just be a criminal and do whatever. And someone runs through your yard and the police come and want to know what's going on and we're going to look. It's not just like, oh, whatever goes. Yeah, like what's it like being an outlaw in a lawful place?
Yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like the first book I wrote, Roll Call, I said that it was like the Garden of Eden, like them trying to stop you from knowing good and evil. You know, drugs are like exciting, you know what I mean? It's like that the whole government system made it so that it's gonna grow, you know what I mean? By trying to stop it, you've made it more enticing, you know what I mean? You got your social life in it, you got your money in it, and so it was not gonna work. And so I would start to, I ended up meeting a guy who was the meth cook after I lost all that money right away. And in my head, I was going to make all my money back that they just seized before I started doing my time. You know what I mean? When they let me out on my own recognizance, I knew I had a case coming. And so now I want to make the money back. I'm only 18. I'm mad. And so I'm aggressive. I was very aggressive. And the meth dealer had a meth cook in San Bernardino. So I immediately got aggressive to get over the meth cook's head to him. And so I had this idea that I'm going to make all my money back before I go, and this is the fastest way to do it, because this guy can turn a couple grand into 10 grand, let's say. You know what I mean? So that was how my head was thinking of things.
Meaning you put up the couple grand to get the material?
Yes. Yes, so that's how my head was working at that age, to hurry up and make the money back. And now I'm addicted to a whole nother level of excitement with trafficking meth. He was shoulder to shoulder with the Mexican mob, the Hells Angels, occasionally the Devil's Disciples out in Yucaipa, because he had the ingredients and he was the best cook. So everybody was everybody knew him.
And this is at the time when it's before the Mexican cartels had built these super labs and are flooding. It's most of the meth's being made domestically.
Yeah, pretty much. It's before the feds came in and regulated the Fedrin to where it all went to Mexico. So the bikers pretty much gave the recipes away to the Mexicans, because this is before the Mexicans even had it figured out. They were just trafficking heroin, coke, and weed, right? And so once they figured out how to make it, it changed everything. But that happened in part because the feds started regulating the Fedrin, the main ingredients. So then they had to go get it from Mexico, you know what I mean? And so that's how that got out. And so yeah, I was all up in that. And
what was the difference for those, you know, like I said, in Michigan, I'm sure there's a back there, but like I had never seen it out there. For people not from the West Coast, not familiar with meth or whatever parts of the country, what's the difference in, I don't know if you ever used it, and using it with other drugs, but dealing with meth buyers?
Bad.
Go from weed to that.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad, and I was sucked into the excitement, the money, and then it's like a game of chess, figuring out how to operate within it, and it's kind of addicting. That whole lifestyle, trafficking, you know, Seth probably knows for sure. It's addicting to outthink everything, you know what I mean, and figure out how you're going to do everything. And remember, I had that crazy childhood where I ran away and I was like chips on my shoulder, trying to show my dad I'd make it anyway, mad that I couldn't see my mom during that kid period. So I took all that into the drug trafficking arena, and I just didn't even care if I died. I lived like I didn't care if I died, so I ended up around other people like that, you know what I mean?
You were older.
Yeah, some of them were older, and some of them were kids that had been through a lot of trauma too. One of my friends I met in Mount Vernon, rest in peace, he's gone, little man, he was running for the Mexican mob out there. He'd watched his brother get run over, Cyclone from Mount Vernon, and so I kicked it with him, and he's the one who had the juice card with the Fedrin after my meth cook got busted in the middle 90s. And so I was always stuck on figuring out how to like get out of that system, you know what I mean? So I started trying to create legal businesses to get out of it.
And this your early
This was early, yeah, this was like early 20s, because I remember my grandfather telling me that dirty money will never be good money, you know what I mean? Like he put insight into me when I was a kid, and I was like, okay, he's right, this is gonna end bad. And I already had God in me because my mom put God in me, but I was like the Catholic kind of God, stab somebody and then do a cross and you're okay. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was that kind of mentality. And
tell people that don't know what Laguna, like what is Laguna?
it's kind of a rich area of Orange County, so it's nice. You know what I mean? It's really nice. South Orange County. Orange County has a huge jail population. Orange County's like the 9th largest county in the United States, so it's a big county, you know what I mean?
What did your dad do for a living to allow you guys to be in that upscale community?
My dad was a pro golfer at one time, and then he worked for the LA Times in Santa Ana, Westminster, and Garden Grove, so he ran like a territory. So he's always upstanding, you know what I mean? Really wise, iron-fisted dude from Indiana. And so yeah, I'm glad I had the upbringing I had. For a while I rebelled against it, but you know.
What was Dad, as you're starting your drug dealing career, what's Dad?
Well, I ran away.
Oh,
I ran away.
Even calling
yeah, I was calling him out for the way he treated my mom. You know what I mean? I was mad that she wasn't able to see us. He tried to make her go to marriage counseling to be able to see us, and that's what made me rebel. You know what I mean? I'm like, I see what you're doing, and you just made the angel flee, and I was mad at him. You know what I mean? And so I took that anger out into the
world.
Yeah. And
what was that first prison stint like? Because that's part of, to go back, we were talking about the being outlaw in the suburbs. Like, if you're from a quote unquote bad area, kind of like when you go to jail, it's like the same people in your neighborhood. It's not that much of a transition. But when you're coming into that environment from you know, a more regular, maybe not the exact people you were around, but the general environment,
Yeah.
it's maybe harder or it's more of an unknown.
Yeah.
Were you scared going into jail?
Well, the fact that I had already run in San Bernardino where it was pretty mob related, you know what I mean? Because I'd already messed around with a lot of mob related stuff, I wasn't scared. I went in there and it freaked me out because the cells were like this small at Chino Central. They're like the smallest cells in the state except for San Quentin. And you'd see everybody all tattooed down, and it was kind of a culture shock, and I wasn't used to being stuck in a cell like this, you know what I mean? I thought I was gonna go crazy. And so I was stuck in a cell going, whoa, I can't believe this. And a little 16-month term seemed like forever. You know, your first time in.
When you're young,
Yeah, your first time in, it seemed like forever. And so yeah, it was a trip in the beginning. I mean, I got into a fight right away, so I took the same mentality in there. I didn't completely go as hard as I ended up going later on in my prison life, but it wasn't like it freaked me out so much. So about 1977, I was in California in Laguna, or Lake Forest, right there by Laguna Hills. And mom's Italian, grandfather Pistol Pete Cardinella, so I kind of looked up to the Italian side of the family. He did a little prison time way back in the day for riding a beef for during Prohibition. But he's a good...
During Prohibition?
Yeah, during that period. So that's kind of the family background. My dad, really iron-fisted, really smart, really wise. And my mom, she didn't stay in the relationship. And so she was like, Italian, kiss your face, make you food. Just real loving and stuff like that. So I rebelled when she was gone. I rebelled real hard against my dad. So I got out in '91. They owed me money in San Bernardino. I didn't really give a serious try at dealing with parole. I didn't like the whole system. I was against the system too. You know, living in my own, like, I lived as if I was God. Like, the system's broken, they're hypocrites, everything's wrong. You know what I mean? So I lived in rebellion like that. And so I didn't try that hard to deal with the system. And so I got back into trafficking. It got a little bit bigger. And I didn't last that long. I lasted a little bit. I lasted about 2 years, and they seized so the first time they seized 20 grand from me. The second time they seized like 5 or 6K. I put it all on my Facebook page, all the, you know, health and safety code seizures. At one point, I showed everything. And 5 or 6 grand, I think that time meth and guns. You know what I mean? It wasn't a huge amount.
Oh, there's a nice combination.
Yeah. And then they came out with that law. That was during Seth talking about that stuff in New York when they were gangstering with the rap and hip hop and crack. So that created new gun laws, and I was seeing that happen. I was seeing that happen, and I basically was seeing that the gun was kind of for show, if you know what I mean. You're either going to use it or you're not. You know what I mean? So I'm already that much involved in violence to realize I don't really need this except for special occasions to protect myself during deals. So I'm over show and tell. You know what I mean? Because you start jacking people because you can tell that they're not even going to use their gun. You just take it from them. You know what I mean? So I was seeing that kind of lifestyle. And so I developed a mentality not to carry a gun anymore because the laws had changed to where you were going to get smoked for having a gun and trafficking, right? So I started changing my style, and I saw enough of the streets to realize you only need it for special occasions to do certain things. So I was kind of growing mentally that way.